that looks like a basketball team that's starting to peak and starting to hit their stride. And again, I'm not gonna pound the table here, but I'm gonna tell y'all, I've been saying this all year. This team is built for the playoffs.
Let's talk a little bit about adversity and chemistry. So Book brought it up before Christmas. Christmas was kind of the bottom of the barrel for this team, right? And Book had talked about how he wanted to be able to go through some adversity this season because they had seasons in recent past where they didn't go through any adversity and nothing really got fixed until it started to fall apart. And by then, it was just a little too late. Did they go through enough adversity and use it correctly to bring them together? How are we feeling about the chemistry?
Yeah, do you guys remember how Christmas felt? Do you remember that post-game show and where this fan base was and they sat there? That was a lot of early season adversity. And you looked at it and you thought, was this a huge, huge mistake in a lot of facets? But our friend Shane Young tweeted yesterday an interesting look at how things were. And I think sometimes we're so in the day-to-day that we forget the larger picture. Before December 28th, the Suns were 15-15. They were 13th in offensive rating, 18th in defense. Since December 28th, they're 34-18. They're 7th in offensive rating, they're 10th in defensive rating, and they're 7th in net rating overall. Now, if you had started the season out like that, everybody would have been going nuts about how great this team could be. Like, so when you look at it in that perspective from basically around that Christmas time to where we are now, I think they might actually be the team we thought they were. Mm-hmm. And I think we were so hurt by that beginning of the season, so damaged by it in some ways that when you had games that felt like they backslid, they felt more ominous because everybody was like, oh shit, are they that team we saw early in the year? Or are they something better? And I was victim of it as much as anybody. I'd come on here and lose my shit about some of those games. And maybe, just maybe, they are more of that team that we thought they could be in the second half of the season.
I think there's just levels to this in terms of adversity. Like when you're talking chemistry on the court, there's also chemistry off the court. There's also the vibe in the locker room. Who's the leader? Who's not the leader? Who's, how much, power or impact does a guy like Frank Vogel have, or the assistants have, or David Fizdale or Kevin Young? There's just so many different things that go into this team, and it's basically a brand new team outside of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant going into this season. And so I think when you're talking about adversity, yes, the injuries, they were terrible. You wish that could have got out of the way. I still think that we haven't seen this team at their peak, which is promising. I think that's something that's a positive moving forward, something that we could all look forward to, because I do think that if this team is playing at their peak, I do think that there's not very many teams that can beat them. The problem is that they have not really played at their peak at any given time all together at the same time. So I'm looking forward to it.
You would hope that right now is the lead up to the peak.
You'd hope.
That's the ultimate goal here, right? I mean, especially the way we've seen Bradley Beal playing as of late. It really seems like he's found his stride with this team. And he was the one that unfortunately suffered the most as far as missed games this year and not being able to get that chemistry and just figure things out, iron things out with his teammates. You know what I mean?
Very true.
That sucked for him a lot.
I think the adversity was good for this team. I honestly, there's not much. I know people are going to say, if you change this, you change that, you're better. We're right where we needed to be. Here's the reward you get if you're 4-5. You become the Clippers or the Mavericks, you're going home in the first round.
Yeah, that's
the reward. That's the reward you get for playing better and not having the adversity or whatever. So I'm just a big believer in blessings in disguise. I believe adversity, this type of adversity builds character. I think this team had a lot of issues during the year that they had to iron out. The 15-15 to start made a lot of sense because it was a brand new team, a new coaching staff, all kind of pieces that you were trying to implement. Brad Beal, not being healthy, a bunch of those guys that were in the rotation, ultimately out of the rotation and traded away by the trade deadline. was just so many dynamics that it made sense that you were 15-15. But you said it, 34-18. You know, the rest of the way, that looks like a basketball team that's starting to peak and starting to hit their stride. And again, I'm not gonna pound the table here, but I'm gonna tell y'all, I've been saying this all year. This team is built for the playoffs. I've been saying it the whole time. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna stand on the shit. I'm gonna get on camera and I'm gonna stare at it and I'm gonna say I was wrong. They were not built for the playoffs. But right now, I'm telling you, I ain't backpedaling. I'm standing on my 10. This team's ready for the playoffs. Fuck that regular season, which is what I've been saying the whole time.